Well, greetings, everyone, and welcome to a special online event today. It's called Discover the Art of Face Reading, how your features show your personality, gifts, and calling. My name is Stephen Dinan. I'm the founder and CEO of the Shift Network, and I'm really delighted to be here today because I get to learn right alongside with you. A brand new area for me with one of the world's experts in it. Her name is Jean Haner, and her teachings provide a fascinating and practical information about ancient principles that people can put to immediate use about how we can really understand the deeper nature that shows through our face and how that can help us to feel more loved, more connected, and ultimately dance with people in a more effective way. So Jean is a remarkable woman whose work spans the spectrum from clearing spaces and working with energy to face reading. So we're in for a real treat today. Welcome, Jean.
Hey there, Stephen. Hi. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Well, I want to let everybody know right up front that we'll have this hour with Jean, and we're going to learn a lot, and we have a chance to go much deeper within a full 7-week program. It's the first we've ever offered in this area, so it's going to be very exciting, a lot of new insights and information. It's called The Art of Face Reading, and we'll share a bit more about that towards the end of the hour today. So, Jean, let's start with a little bit of your backstory. So what brought you, face reading is probably not something you grew up doing. So what brought you into this arena, and why you feel it's such an important tool for all of us to have?
Obviously I probably didn't grow up doing this. I actually married into it when I was in my 20s. I married into a Chinese family, very traditional family from China. My in-laws barely spoke English. My mother-in-law started to teach me things about Chinese medicine, Chinese philosophy, Chinese face reading. And I listened to everything except for the part about Chinese face reading because I thought it was a terrible thing to judge somebody based on how they look. Oh, my goodness. But I soon found that I had to ignore the fact that she was right about everybody. So I started listening. Finally. And I started incorporating face reading into my work with people. I found that it really just very quickly revealed how someone would tend to think and feel and behave, what they would need to be happy in life. Face reading is actually an ancient branch of Chinese medicine, and it was originally a diagnostic tool. I often define Chinese medicine as the science of recognizing patterns and their meanings. And there's patterns in the features in your face that at first they found helped them diagnose health issues. They correlated to certain ways the physical system would behave. But as soon as they started using it as a diagnostic tool, they quickly discovered that it also helped them diagnose your personality, what you would be best at in terms of career, how to attract healthy relationships, how to understand yourself better. So really, thousands of years ago, it was the face readers who were the original personal coaches. They were the ones that we went to for guidance on career and relationship and personal growth. And so that's kind of what my work has evolved into. And I find it the most accurate and comprehensive source of knowledge about how who our inner nature is and how anybody else is as well. You can, even on first sight, start to see immediate things about someone that can help you understand them, accept them, and create a compassionate space for them.
What a fascinating history that you've just shared. I didn't know any of that. First, I didn't know it was more diagnostic, and they were the original personal empowerment coaches in many ways. And so I guess it can make sense that it connects with the philosophy because so much of Chinese medicine is based upon the flow of qi in our body. And so the way our energy flows is ultimately going to shape our face. It's not just genetics, right? So that's going to it's going to create the structure that we see.
Exactly. And it is also genetics, of course. I often have very left-brained, skeptical people come to lectures, and I'm very left-brained as well, but they'll often raise their hand and go, well, this is ridiculous. It's all just genetics. I have this kind of nose because my father had this kind of nose. And my answer to that is, well, of course, yes, you got this kind of nose because it was in the DNA. There's no conflict here. There's just extra information because this nose talks about some personality characteristics that you share with your father. That's all. So there's no contradiction with Western science at all.
I'd love for you to give an example from your own life. So when, like when you first started practicing, when did reading somebody's face actually open a new possibility for you of relating to them, or like opening a new business relationship, or understanding that you avoided a challenging situation or something? Give an example.
Yeah, I've got a great story. This is really the very first time I started to share what I was seeing in somebody else's face. Because at first I wasn't confident enough, so I wasn't telling them that I was reading their face. I wasn't sure I was right, but I quickly came to see that I was right. I was actually doing feng shui, which is another thing that my mother-in-law taught me long before it became a fad in this country. And I was hired by a woman who was a bookkeeper to come feng shui her home. Now, the reason she asked me to feng shui her home was that even though she was a bookkeeper, what she thought she really wanted to be was a firefighter. And she had, for 7 years, trained very vigorously and taken this very demanding, strenuous physical test in order to become a firefighter. And every year for 7 years, she failed miserably. So I guess she thought, oh, maybe there's something in the energy of my home that is blocking me from succeeding to become a firefighter. So I went to her house. I hadn't met her before, just spoken to her on the phone, and rang the bell, front door opened. And actually the first thing that I saw when she opened the door was behind her. It was one of those big, glossy beefcake calendars of the bare-chested firefighters standing there real sexy with the hose. So I'm like, oh my. And as we looked at her house, there was everything about firefighting. There were little toy fire engines there. There were pictures of firehouses. There was the first thing that she saw when she rolled over and woke up in bed in the morning was a hunky portrait of a firefighter. This woman was serious. So we sat down on the couch and I started to talk with her. And that's when I first took my first good long look at her face. And my heart just sank because there was not a feature on her face that said firefighter to me. That wasn't through nature. That wasn't what she was aligned to do in life. And you can use face reading to determine the best kinds of careers that you would be naturally good at. What her face actually talked about was that her heart's desire was actually to form a family, to settle down with someone, to have a wonderful home and family and community, that she wanted to be in relationship more than putting out fires. And so I was, as tactfully as possible, trying to explain to her I wasn't sure that feng shui could really help her become a firefighter, because it just didn't fit with the patterns of personality I was seeing in her nature. And she was just kind of staring at me blankly for the longest time. And then all of a sudden, a big light bulb came up over her head. And she said, oh, wait a minute, I think I've got it. I don't want to be a firefighter. I want to have a firefighter. It's like, oh my God. But she was right. And that really rang some bells for me. That made me understand what this is really all about. Because I think all of us feel a yearning, a calling, a desire for a certain kind of life or work or a person, and we don't quite understand why. And it really is a reflection of how she, for instance, was just misreading the message slightly. She actually needed firefighter energy in her life, but she was misunderstanding and thinking she had to be the firefighter, when in fact she just could get the firefighter boyfriend, which she did, and she's very happy now. And to me, this illustrates kind of a basic concept. We're all born with a unique inner blueprint about who we came here to be, what we came here to learn, that is perfect and beautiful and right. But for all of us, to one degree or another, soon after we arrive, we start receiving messages, expectations, judgments from parents, from peers, from teachers, from society at large. And the message is often that we should be more like that, not this. And implicit in that message, of course, is that you will be loved if you're more like that, not this. Well, we all want to be loved. And so we try to be more like that. And to me, there begins the journey away from original nature. And one of the most powerful things that I see face reading do for people is to allow them to come home to themselves, to understand why they are the way they are, and how to be that successfully. because in many ways we've been expressing the unhealthy or negative versions of who we are because we're in such self-judgment. We took in those messages, those negative messages we got about ourselves, and believed them to be true. And this is a way to release all that and come home to yourself and to learn to be true to your own nature and comfortable in your own skin.
It's a fascinating concept that, that our original template for our little design actually gets manifested in our face. And to some extent, are we like, as a soul, creating features that help us to advance that particular intention for the life? Like, sort of like, well, I'm going to have a stronger chin because I want to be a CEO or something.
Face reading says that you were born with the features you have for a reason. They're a reflection of your inner blueprint. That as you change in your life, your face will also change. So you're not meant to change your face to become someone else, but as you become more and more comfortable with your face, for instance, some kinds of wrinkles disappear as you become more comfortable with who you are, because they're just a reflection of some negative feelings you have about yourself. So I can save people thousands of dollars on cosmetic procedures from done to their face. I often teach workshops, and I'll hear from someone 4 to 6 weeks after the workshop, and they'll say to me, "You're not going to believe this. You know that wrinkle that you told me the meaning of, and it explained, what I've been doing wrong in my life, and I just made a few minor changes, and you're not going to believe this. I woke up this morning and the wrinkle was gone." And of course, I'm the first one to believe it because I see it all the time, is that as you do your inner work, your face changes in a positive way to reflect that.
Well, let's lay down some of the foundations. So what are the first key elements on a high level that you're looking at in order to get a bit of a sense of the blueprint?
Yeah, well, I mean, face reading is kind of like putting a jigsaw puzzle together. You don't just look at one feature. You don't just look at one piece of the puzzle and be able to see the whole picture. So in doing a full face reading, you read all the features of the face because they have many layers of messages for you about who you are inside. And that's something that you'll learn in the course. But having said that, you can look at just one feature on someone's face and know a lot about them. Should I give you some examples of kind of the top 5
Absolutely.
things to look at? Okay.
Yes.
Well, so the eyes, for instance. And by the way, once you learn this, you'll never be bored again. You'll be sitting in an airport. And if your plane is delayed, that's okay, because you're just looking around going, wow, I know so much about these people. The eyes. So one of the things that the eyes tell you about yourself or someone else is your communication style. You may have noticed some people seem to have really large eyes, like I have relatively large eyes, or they hold them very wide open. And other people have rather deep-set or narrowed eyes, and neither one is bad or good. It's just a part of their design, but it tells you something about how they tend to communicate. Someone with large eyes that holds them very wide open, they have a very open communication style. So, gosh, they're an open book. They'll tell you anything about themselves. They probably, if you're in relationship with them, they'll text you on and off throughout the day. Someone with large eyes will want to come home to you at the end of the night and talk about their day, share with you what happened, and hear from you about what happened to you during the day. In other words, they value open communication. To them, that's just natural. Why wouldn't anybody want to be that way? Well, someone with very narrowed or deep-set eyes, right? That's a different kind of communication style. They're more reserved. They kind of play their cards closer to the vest. They wouldn't dream of sitting down next to someone and telling them their whole life story when they barely know their name. To them, that's like, why would anybody do that? You may have to work a little harder to earn this person's trust. They might be a little bit more skeptical. But once you have, they're your friend forever. But this isn't the kind of person who will call or text you all day long. And you shouldn't take it personally if they don't, because they don't even think about it. If they come home at the end of the day, they may just want to decompress for a while. They don't want to immediately get into some long conversation about what their day was like. If you're in a relationship with someone like this, and you're wanting to discuss your relationship with them, their response might be, we talked about our relationship 6 months ago. I just want to sit and watch the game with you. So it's just different styles. Again, neither one is right or wrong, and it doesn't mean you're incompatible. But this is a brilliant way to kind of get out of judgment, get out of taking the other person's personality personally, to take it so seriously, to understand, oh, that's right, that's just kind of how they're wired. And we can create some common ground here. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. And I was going to say, with your wide open eyes, you've got no future in the CIA.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, well, I'm not so good at keeping secrets. I can keep secrets for clients. That's one thing I can do. But other than that, so that's one feature. Let's look at the second one. You might want to look at someone's nose. The size of their nose can tell you a lot about them. So the larger your nose, the more likely it is that you'll notice little details that other people will miss. That it may have been your experience in life that other people are a little more sloppy than you are, that they don't cross all their T's and dot all their I's, that at the extreme it can be a perfectionist. But this is a sign of someone who cares very much about the quality of everything that they do. Now that's lovely, but I always say that every personal characteristic comes as a package deal. In other words, it has two sides. It will give you many benefits, but there's also a downside. There's some detrimental influences. And here, with a large nose, it can be a certain level of anxiety. If you're caring so much about every little detail, then one thing that can happen is that you work too long on any particular project. You're going back and checking it 4 times, or you're staying up late at night just to make sure that every little thing is perfect, and little details no one else would even notice. You know, when I have a large nose, and when I get an email at 10:30 at night from someone, my reply to them is, you must have a big nose like me because you're still up working. So we always have to kind of manage our perfectionism or our anxiety about getting everything right. Now, not everybody is meant to have a large nose. People with small noses, that's their design. That's how they're meant to be. And one thing about small noses is that it means that they value efficiency. They're not so worried about getting every tiny little comma in its place. They're not going to be anxious. They want to get it done and move on to the next thing. When I do trainings in corporations, for instance, often it's the person in the group, in the team, who has a small nose who says, my motto is work smart, not hard. Classic for a small-nosed person, and that's how they're meant to be. So it's a nice kind of balance when you have one of each type working together. They just have to understand they have different work styles.
That's great. So you can put the big nose person in charge of quality control.
Yes, exactly. You got it.
Nice. Well, very helpful. Very helpful for hiring decisions here, I must say.
I do a lot of trainings for human resources people because it's not about rejecting someone based on what their face says, but it's about understanding, okay, how can we tweak the job to be a better fit? Or what do we need to know to train them in a way that they will learn the easiest? You can even read the faces of your children to understand how they learn best, so to help the teachers understand or to help them with their homework in a certain way. There's just a myriad of messages and uses for this word. Third feature, okay, how about the mouth? Now, here's something interesting about the mouth. One of the things that our mouth shows, and there's many things every feature shows, but one of the things our mouth shows is whether we have some negative expectations in life. Now, I'm going to kind of go big picture here. An aspect of how someone holds their mouth can actually be a reflection of what their experience of their mother was in childhood. That if they didn't feel like their mother was nurturing enough, or if they didn't feel safe enough at home, it can actually affect how they as an adult hold their mouth. You may have seen some adults where when their face is at rest, their mouth goes down, like that, some degree like that. Or some people even smile upside down. I don't know if I can replicate it. They're smiling and their mouth actually goes down. Or someone who holds a lot of tension in their mouths. So even when their face is supposedly relaxed, they can just kind of purse their lips a little bit. Well, this can be a reflection of kind of their brain being tuned into a radio station, always tuned into this station, about never feeling like they're going to get support. because they didn't get it from mother to a certain degree. And that, our earliest experiences in life can ripple through the rest of our adult lives. So these people often have a belief system that no one's ever there for them, that they are always there for their friends, or they are highly responsible, but gosh, when they need somebody to step up, nobody does. And interestingly enough, you can start to rewire your system if you feel like you've got some negative expectations going on, like, oh, it's probably not going to work out anyway, that kind of thing, that you can start to tune into your mouth just a few times a day. See how you're holding your mouth. If there's some tension there, if you're finding that you're turning down your mouth a little bit, relax your lips and give yourself the gift of a little smile. And that actually starts to change the station you're tuned into. It can change the message that you broadcast out to the rest of the world, so you start having a different experience, that when you do need help and support, people actually start showing up. Because as we change inside, we change externally, but vice versa. If you're holding tension in your mouth, as you change and shift that, it can release some inner tension, some inner negativity.
That's interesting. So it's really bi-directional. It's both the expression outward, but then you can change feeding back in. That's fascinating. Great. Well,
yes,
what other features do you look at? Go ahead.
Yeah, okay, a couple more here. So the chin. And some people, you may notice their chin really sticks out far, really prominent chin.
My wife's chin is super prominent.
All right. Well, one thing that means that she has a very strong willpower and inner strength, that she can make it through tough times and keep on going. A resilience, an inner kind of determination and tenacity. Have you found that's true about her?
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. She has a strong will.
Absolutely. So someone like this, wow, enormous inner strength. Now, as I said, package deal, there's always a downside. And so one downside of a really strong chin is that this person can be stubborn at times. That if there's something they don't want to do, you may as well just give up because they're not going to do it. Or if there is something they do want to do, don't get in their way because they're going to do it anyhow. So that's a strong chin, but what if someone has a relatively weak or small chin? That does not mean anything is wrong with them. Remember that every feature actually has many positive things to say about you, and there's a reason why you have the features that you do. Someone with a small chin then will not be a steamroller. They won't be so stubborn. They won't be so forceful. They are often more tolerant of other people. They don't just get their own agenda and keep pushing till they get it done. But a very weak chin, sometimes called a receding chin, where there's hardly any chin at all, this can be someone who in childhood felt oppressed. In other words, they weren't allowed to have willpower. They just had to do what they were told. And so they didn't grow a sense of healthy stubbornness, because stubbornness is needed sometimes, that determination, that stick-to-itiveness. And so sometimes people with a very receding chin, they may give up too easily. They may think, oh, it's probably not going to work out anyhow, and just give up a little bit. If they know that about themselves, if they know that's their tendency, then they can manage those feelings and go, wait a minute. Is that my chin talking to me right now? Is that too much of the influence of my chin? Maybe I do need to stick with this a little bit longer and see how it goes.
Fascinating. So you kind of want to balance the prominent chin and the less prominent chin, well, in terms of matchmaking.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. Yeah. The thing, yeah, and one of the beautiful things about this work is it's really a form of mindfulness. And what I mean by that is you start to become aware of your personal patterns, the repeating emotions you tend to have as you go through your day. You're more aware of them, and so you don't get so swept away in them. You go, oh, look, that's my chin talking again. You don't take it so seriously. You understand why that's happening, and then you can make a much more conscious choice about that feeling, that thought, that decision. Is this really healthy? Is this a positive expression of who I am? Or is it something I need to kind of put on the shelf and just be with for a while? This is one of the most valuable things that I often hear from people about how this work has changed their lives, is that they don't take everything so personally anymore, or they don't just think it's them. They understand, oh, right, that's my pattern. And boy, I tend to get too locked into that particular pattern. Let me see if I can create some more space and get some new insights or some new ways to approach this. And that's another thing you learn in this course, is about how to kind of step into a different kind of pattern and view it through a different filter. And suddenly you discover a lot more possibilities about how to solve this problem or reach your goal than you would have kind of locked into the patterns you used to be so locked into.
And it sounds like that's a great way that you can start to see other people's differentials and how you might tap them as an ally. And like, because then you're like, oh, I know where my pattern is, and so I can pull in somebody else who's got a complementary strength.
And beautiful, absolutely. And another thing about this is that it's actually the opposite of judging people based on their appearance. It helps you get out of judgment because you can see why they're behaving the way that they are, or why they have the opinions they have, and you don't react in the same way. And so you kind of learn a new way of responding to everybody you're in relationship with, whether it's 60 seconds in an elevator or 60 years in a marriage. This is just incredibly powerful.
Great. Well, let's keep going through the full roadmap here of To the Soul. What else you want to bring forward?
Okay. So we've done 4 of the top 5 features. Let's finish with the jaw. So if you ever look at someone and you notice they have a really strong jaw, when you look at them, you think, wow, that's a big jaw. One of the things that this means is that they will probably be a rather competitive person. They like to win. They can be quite driven. And that doesn't have to be a negative thing at all. Sometimes they just love to compete with themselves and challenge themselves and push themselves. But another thing that this means is that they can be a little bit competitive with you, even in a casual conversation. There is this desire to kind of win the conversation. So if you say, oh, it's a beautiful day, they will say, the weather report says it's supposed to rain. No, you're wrong. So they've just won. They knew more than you. And that can cause a reaction in you that can kind of make the relationship go wrong, make the conversation go wrong. With someone like this, the best thing to do is just, let them win right off the bat. Just let them win. So, oh, you're right. And then they'll calm down. They won't be so competitive because they won already.
I guess you don't have too strong a jaw, or you wouldn't just let them win.
Well, that's true. You get 2 people with really strong jaws, they might start an argument. But the thing is that they don't think of it as an argument. They think of it as kind of an enjoyable debate, a discussion. They get energized by what other people would consider an argument and try to avoid. They like that. It feeds their energy. Someone with a strong jaw is also said to be able to kind of size up people or situations very quickly. So on first meeting, they already are coming to conclusions about you. If this is someone that you're interviewing for a job with, you walk into that office and you see someone with a strong jaw, you have about 10 seconds to establish your credibility with them. You need to get right to the point. You need to give them a firm handshake. You don't dilly-dally. You don't talk about why you were late or some emotional problem you're having. You just get right to the point, because otherwise they're going to make kind of a negative judgment about you. But what about someone who doesn't have a strong jaw? What about the opposite, someone who has a very narrow or somewhat weak jaw? Again, that doesn't mean anything bad at all. There are no right or wrong features. But what we would know about someone with a weaker or narrow jaw is they're more flexible. They're not judgmental. They will listen to all sides of an argument. If you present a good enough argument, they'll actually change their mind if you convince them of your beliefs. Where someone with a strong jaw, very rooted in their own judgment, it's going to be very hard to influence them to change their minds. President Obama has a rather narrow jaw, and I still remember when he first got elected in his very first inaugural speech, one of the things that he said was, hey, we've got this problem in the country right now. I want your ideas. If you have a great idea, bring it to me. If I think it'll work, I'll use it. Well, that was his jaw talking. That was him saying, I'll listen to you. You can influence me in a positive way. So again, neither feature is right or wrong, and most people don't have a weak jaw or a strong jaw. They have somewhere in the middle. Like my jaw is relatively normal, so I can size things up to a certain degree but not go overboard, and I'll listen to you, but it'll take you a while, that kind of thing.
Fascinating. Well, you've covered some of the five main ones, but there also is a whole piece around the eyebrows, right? And the forehead. And so what is that all about?
Yeah, well, so, we'll learn to read all the features in the face. You can even read the ears and the shapes of the eyebrows, the shape of the nose and the jaw and the chin. So there's a lot of kind of layers of information here. Well, one of the things that the eyebrows talk about is the level of your self-confidence, of your natural self-confidence and assertiveness. If you have naturally thick, full, strong eyebrows, one of the things that it means is that you have a natural level of self-confidence, that you'll be relatively assertive, you'll be able to set boundaries with people, you'll be decisive, you'll think clearly, you'll be able to kind of create a vision for where you want to go from here and the path to get there. People with strong eyebrows often very goal-oriented. People with naturally sparse eyebrows or weak eyebrows, nothing wrong with that, but what we'll know is that, okay, self-confidence is not their strongest quality. We'll find their personal strengths in other features of their faces. But one thing that women need to know is that if you have naturally strong eyebrows, and you tweeze or pluck or wax them to a very kind of tiny pencil-thin line above your eyes, well, when you reduce the strength of your eyebrows, you also reduce the strength of all those positive qualities. In other words, you can reduce your self-confidence, reduce your assertiveness, reduce your ability to make good decisions. And I can't tell you how many women I've worked with who had plucked their eyebrows, their naturally strong eyebrows, to very thin lines, and then attracted abusive men into their lives who violated their boundaries or tried to dominate them or were abusive emotionally or physically. So face reading says there's a reason why you were born with the features that you have, and you should leave them as they are naturally. Now, I know women, pluck a little here and there, they shape them. That's no big deal. What I'm talking about is a drastic change to your eyebrows. If you have nice, strong eyebrows, please leave them as they are as much as possible.
That's fascinating. It kind of relates to something I read about, that the Army, when they recruited Native American trackers, they would shave their heads and they could no longer track. So their hair was connected to their intuition and their ability to track. And so there's like these subtle things that may be going on with our hair and our energy system that we're just not even aware of.
And that's actually validated by Chinese face reading, because one of the things the hair on your head has to do with is intuition. If you have very strong, thick, lush hair, that actually means that you have a deeper and more natural intuitive talent than many other types of people. So spot on.
Fascinating. Well, I think that was a surprise to the people in the Army, but we're learning more and more. I love the way we're learning more and more in our modern world about things that validate 3,000 years worth of lore and history and practice. Well, let's talk about, you wanted to share about the 5 personality types and how it's expressed in people's faces too. So let's talk about that next.
Yeah. And so this is based on the 5 elements of Chinese medicine, which, as you said, is thousands of years old. And that's one of the reasons I have such respect for this, because it's basically based on thousands of years of research. It's not something that I just happened to come up with or one other person, that this has been researched and proven over time. And there's patterns in your face that reveal patterns of personality. And I have come up with names, kind of archetypal names, to describe the personality type. The first one I call the innovator. That's the water element personality type. And these are people who are deeply intuitive. It has to do with the hair, as we were talking about a moment ago. They have a natural intuitive ability, so that often they make decisions based more on their intuition than their logic. They don't need to kind of think everything through step by step. So if you ask them, wow, how did you come up with that idea? They might just go, oh, no, it just came to me. Rather than I've been strategizing this for a very long time. So they kind of go with that inner voice. They should trust their intuition. These people also have an emotional depth that other people lack. They feel things very deeply. They're often interested in philosophy or spirituality. But this emotional depth is often not visible. They keep it below the surface. So these are people often who will be more quiet. You send them an email, they'll send you a 2-word answer. They won't go on and on and on. To them, silence is actually usually the right choice. And so they don't often talk about what's going on inside. If you're in relationship with someone like this and you want to talk about a problem that you're having, you can't expect just to plop right down on the couch next to them and go, okay, so let's talk about this, because they need time to kind of deal with what's going on and process and think about things. It's not that they're slow. These people are actually very brilliant, but they process more deeply than other people do. And freedom is a priority for someone like this. If we think about the image, the nature image for this personality type, which is water, water flows. Water doesn't like to be contained. It wants to flow everywhere. And so someone like this needs freedom in how they do their work, freedom in how they live their lives. They would never want to be stuck in a little cubicle all day and not be able to come and go. Or they would ideally love to work late at night when they kind of perk up, or work the hours they're in the mood for, or do something different every day. So they often live rather unusual lives. It's not unusual for them to work internationally or live in many exotic places or do an unusual kind of work. They often feel kind of a little bit like an outlier from the rest of the society. They feel kind of like a stranger in a strange land, and a little bit set off from other people. And so there may be a little bit of a hump to get over with them to establish rapport, or to make them feel like you're genuinely connected with them. Now, there's a lot more that I could say, but let me move on to the next one just in the interest of time. The second one I call the warrior archetype. Not the worrier, but the warrior. And the warrior has a drive to make the world a better place. This is someone who wants to go out and create positive change in the world. They're very good at seeing what's wrong with a situation, with a person, with a problem, and knowing how to fix it. And once they've figured that out, they want to get going and fix it. They don't want to walk around in circles and have meetings about it. It's like, okay, what do we do? Let's go and do it. They want to get it done and then move on to the next thing. This is someone who's very driven to keep moving forward in life. So often, as soon as they've finished one project, their very next thought is, what's next? Okay, now what do I do? Instead of going, good, yeah, I got that done, they'll be almost too driven sometimes, and they need to remind themselves to relax and have a little downtime. People like this value logic. They're very linear thinkers. And so unlike the innovator who values intuition, this is the kind of person who likes spreadsheets, who likes a structure and a schedule for how they do their days, and that's right for them. And lastly, the warrior archetype is someone who will always be a lifelong student. They're always wanting to challenge themselves, to grow, to learn new things all the time.
And how does that show up in the face?
So for the warrior, we would be talking about someone with a strong jaw and strong eyebrows, for example, or a rectangular face shape, a long rectangle. Often they have a hairline at the top of their forehead that goes across in a straight line, and they have indented temples. The sides of the forehead are kind of concave. Those are the patterns that you would see in that face.
Fascinating. How about the third personality type?
So the third one I usually call the archetype of the lover. And this doesn't necessarily mean romance. This is someone who has a huge open heart, and they spread love wherever they go. They just walk down the street and they're flirting with the babies in the strollers and stopping to pet the dogs and complimenting you on how nice you look today. Their whole purpose in living really is to spread love and joy. These are people who have kind of an exuberant nature, and they find life fascinating. So they're always studying something new, but the problem is that there's so many fascinating things going on that they often have a lot of balls in the air. They have trouble completing things sometimes, because it's like they're doing this and they're doing this, and then all of a sudden it's like squirrel, and then they're they're off on something sparkly over there. So one of the issues for people who have this kind of lover archetype is knowing when to kind of stay with something and keep their attention with something until it gets completed and then move on to the next thing. And this is actually one of the things that face reading can help them do, is to learn how to kind of calm their system, because they can get overstimulated at times, and then that causes problems for themselves. The lover personality type also is someone who is an empath. But there are different kinds of empaths, and the lover empath is what I call the emotional empath. And by empath, what I mean is someone who's highly sensitive to the energy around them in the world. An emotional empath is a little bit of a sponge for other people's emotions, that without trying to, without even being aware that it's happening, they can soak in the thoughts and feelings of the people around them and be affected by them. Sometimes people like this say, I'm a contact crier. In other words, if somebody else in the room starts to shed a tear, I'm immediately just sobbing. They can take on the feelings of other people. Now, this is in many ways a lovely talent in terms of empathizing with other people, really being able to feel what they're feeling. But often what this personality type needs is a way to develop good boundaries energetically, so they're not being constantly buffeted by all the little psychic messages going on around them, that they can open as needed, but then they can kind of create a filter so they're not taking on other people's feelings all the time. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense. Great. And so there's two more. I think we have to go a little quicker through these two.
So the nurturer is the fourth archetype, and this is your true blue friend. This is someone who will always be there for you, highly responsible, kind and caring, loves to feed people, by the way. So if you go to their house, they'll have food for you. You have to eat it, or they won't feel a genuine connection for you. Relationships are the most important thing to them in life. They really speak the language of relationships, and what they value most is a sense of community and connection. These are not loners. And then the fifth archetype.
And just quickly before you go on, like just the signals in the face, face too, like so we get that.
So the nurturer, you will often see plumpness on either side of the chin. Some nice plump bits here, full lips or large mouth, plump nose, plumpness to the features, round eyebrows or round eyes.
Fascinating. Great. And the last one?
The visionary. This is someone who can see the big picture and the fine details all at the same time. It's someone who has a strong desire to live a meaningful and authentic life, a real quality life. And for them, they hate small talk. They don't like superficial relationships. They want to have a certain level of conversation with people. It's also very important for them to feel like they're fulfilling their purpose in life, and often they question themselves about whether they're doing it well enough. There's a little radio station playing in their heads about not good enough. They're always worried about not good enough, not being good enough, or not having done something well enough, self-esteem issues, so to speak. In the face, you can recognize this by a very prominent nose, especially if it's not very plump, if it's a little bit bony, prominent cheeks, visible upper eyelids. I'm a good example of that. You can see my upper eyelids. You can't see everybody's upper eyelids. And sometimes you'll see very highly placed eyebrows way above the eyes, and that's another little sign of the visionary.
Fascinating. Well, there's one other area that we wanted to also talk about is the joy line wrinkles and like why that can actually be a positive.
Yes, well, there are certain wrinkles you are supposed to develop. They're very good signs. They're signs of personal growth. And one example of that are what we usually call crow's feet, the little diagonal lines that come out from the sides of the eyes. In face reading, they're called joy lines, and they're a sign that your heart is continuing to open as you go through your life, that you can be a positive and affectionate person. And they found, even in Western scientific studies, that we all have an unconscious, immediate, positive reaction to people with joy lines because we feel we're going to have a good experience with them, and it's true.
Fantastic. Well, there's so many fascinating aspects about this, and just before we talk a little bit more about your upcoming program, I wanted to, any other areas that we haven't gotten to cover that you wanted to make sure that we touched upon?
Let's see. Well, there was one thing we were going to talk about in terms of natural entrepreneurial talents.
Yes.
And each of the 5 personality types does have a specific type of entrepreneurial talent. So if you're wanting to start your own business, it's really valuable to know what your type is. People with strong eyebrows and a strong jaw, the warrior type, are very driven. They're natural entrepreneurs because they're so goal-oriented and they can really kind of push to get ahead. But that's not the only way to be an entrepreneur. And one of the most valuable uses of this work, I think, is to know what kind of advice to accept that's a fit for you, and how to recognize when the advice is based on somebody else's personality but won't work for you. Because if you try it and it won't work, then you tend to blame yourself instead of understanding, oh, wait, it just wasn't a fit for who I am.
Fascinating. It's truly a whole new world of information with all this, and I love the way it threads together. You know, I think clearly you can take this into directions of health and well-being. You can take it into relationships. You can take it into career. It's sort of giving you a magnifying glass to look at the deeper structure of how somebody's created. So it's really such a practical skill to develop.
Absolutely. And one of the most common comments I get from people is that this is the first time in my life I've felt truly seen. And to be able to do that for yourself is amazing, but to be able to give that gift to someone else. If you're a coach, a counselor, a helper of any sort, or if you just have people in your life that you love and want to help, to be able to see their true nature and support that, to be able to see directly what their life is all about and how to achieve their true calling is just, every day is like Christmas for me. It's such a beautiful experience to be able to give that to people.
Good. Well, I think you've been developing some nice joy lines of every day is like Christmas for you right there. So, well, your enthusiasm is truly infectious, and I know that people are in for a real treat with your upcoming program. So let's share a little bit more about that for people who want to go deeper and really start to develop this skill and be able to apply it in your life in a lot of fascinating ways. So the program that Jean is going to be teaching is called The Art of Face Reading. Discover your unique nature, gifts, and calling through ancient Chinese wisdom. You can find the program at theartoffacereading.com, all spelled just like it sounds, theartoffacereading.com. It's going to be a 7-week program. There's no prerequisites. You don't have to have any background in Chinese medicine or all this, but you're going to learn a lot in these areas, from Chinese medicine to health to personality. I mean, Jean is weaving a lot of threads together here to create one coherent picture of how to use this skill. It's going to be, and it really, as I said, has a huge impact in a lot of different areas of your life, from relationships to self-understanding. So where usually people start is with the self-understanding, but then extending that into how you engage others in a more constructive way. So, Jean, I'd love for you to share in your own words what people will come away with by taking this 7-week journey with you.
Yeah, so interesting. The first 5 weeks, each of those weeks is devoted to one of the personality types, and we really go in depth in terms of what their behavior will be like, how they will tend to feel, what they'll value, what their health issues might be, what kind of empathic abilities they might have. We cover a lot of territory, and then how to read those features on the face and the meanings of those features. So the first week is the water element personality, and then wood, fire, earth, and metal. Then we'll talk about timing on the face, which I haven't even covered here. You can kind of read every decade of your life, even every year of your life on your face. Not like destiny carved in stone. Please know, everything is always changing. So this isn't anything to be afraid about, but it helps you look back and understand why you had the experiences that you had, where you stand in life right now, and even to see how you can change your future, how you can make some adjustments if you want to change where you'll be 10, 20 years from now. And then the final one, I'll be doing demonstration readings. I'll be showing you how to put this all together to understand who someone is on a very deep level and how to coach and counsel them to understand how to use this work to solve their problems. I mean, this is based on Chinese medicine. So one of the wonderful things about this, it isn't that we leave you with, oh, good luck with that. Sorry, this is how you are. It's like, no, here's some cures. Here's some remedies. Here's some ways to make adjustments so that your life can come into balance and unfold much more easily than it has been up till now.
Great. Love for you to give an example. If you're working as a coach, as an example of somebody who has a wood personality, the warrior, like how might you coach them differently than you might coach somebody else?
Well, and actually, the wood personality is what most coaching programs work best for, because they're so linear. And most coaching programs go, okay, here's your 7 steps. Do these 7 steps and you'll reach your goal. But if you're working with an innovator, for instance, the one who processes very deeply and is very intuitive, giving them a linear program would be the worst thing that you could do. You need to let them think about it, process with it, gradually move into it based on how they feel. This is water, and so water flows in curves, not straight lines. So we can make adjustments to how we help people based on their personal patterns.
I think that's just fascinating as well, because it really is. We're treating people in a more unique way to them, but there are also these larger patterns in which the people kind of fall into these clusters. So very, very helpful. So I want to encourage everyone to go to the page at theartoffacereading.com. Again, that's theartoffacereading.com. And I should mention, this is going to be a video class. So Jean is very expressive, and I think you'll be able to get more demonstrations, maybe some graphic images. And also when she does direct coaching with people, you'll be able to see the other folks as well who are not coaching, but doing reading itself with other people. So there's a way it's going to create a lot more intimacy to do this as video. We'll also have the live time for Q&A and for asking in-depth questions. You're going to get recordings of every class session. There's also weekly exercises and practices you can do at home. We have a Facebook community. There's also, as I mentioned, recordings of every class, both video and audio, as well as transcripts. So you can really pour over this material, learn a ton, and really begin to apply it in a deep way in your life. So the program begins on March 22nd, and it's going to be on Thursdays at 5 Pacific time. Again, that's Thursdays at 5 Pacific time. If you can't make the live class, you can still get the full value, because you get the transcripts and the recordings right away, and you can still participate in the Facebook forum as well with your questions. There's a number of great extra bonuses that Jean has brought forward for this program as well. First is a guided audio meditation. This is called Spiritual Facial. That's fascinating. Jean, you want to share more about that extra bonus that people get when they sign up?
Well, this is a guided meditation to lead you through the energy centers of your face, which directly connect with all the energy centers of your body. And so it's a beautiful experience that really takes you to a whole other place. And I've had so many people write me afterwards that it was better than getting an actual facial, that they had to disappear even after one time.
I love it. That's a great title, too. Another bonus that Jean has added to this program is called Predictions for 2018, which is an audio reading from Jean. Now, given the tumultuousness of our times, I think this is truly fascinating. How are you giving us some predictions for 2018? Is it based upon reading the faces of prominent figures, or what's going on?
No, this is very personalized. So this is using the date of your birth to understand what the influence of 2018 will be on your unique life. And it is a 30-plus minute reading, specifically how to do this your best, how to understand what happens to you.
That's fascinating. We have a third bonus, very generous, called Face Reading to Learn to Love Most of Your Wrinkles. That's nice you added most, so it's not all. It's a PDF report, and I think this is relevant to all of us. We tend to attract a more seasoned audience that often has a few more wrinkles, and so to embrace the beauty and the power of those wrinkles and the positive signals they send to people as well. So maybe share a little bit more about what you're going to be sharing in that bonus.
Yeah, so there's actually 3 basic types of wrinkles. There's horizontal wrinkles that go straight across your face, there's vertical wrinkles, and then there's diagonal wrinkles. And so I'll talk about each kind. I'll show you examples and talk about what they mean. And actually the title is a little bit of a joke, because you really can learn you can learn to love all of your wrinkles.
That's funny. And we also should bring attention, we have one extra bonus, which is available only today until midnight. This is, we like to do this as a special incentive for you to go to the page at theartoffacereading.com. Take in all that you learned in this hour and tune in with your own knowing. And if you're feeling called to go deeper into this fascinating material, that you have an extra incentive to do so today. So this is called Meet Your 5 Element Guides, and Meet Your 5 Element Guides. Jean, what is this bonus all about?
Yeah, this is a really powerful guided meditation that I lead you through meeting each of the archetypes and getting help and support from them. You can approach this meditation if you have a problem you're trying to solve or some guidance you want, or you can just experience it and see what happens. But it's a really powerful experience that goes on for about half an hour, where you meet each of them and each has a special gift and some help to offer you, and you come out the other end feeling very different.
Great. Well, it's a fantastic extra bonus when people sign up by midnight tonight, Pacific time. So again, you can find all the details at theartoffacereading.com. Starts on March 22nd, so pretty soon. And when you sign up today, you get the extra bonus on Meet Your 5 Element Guides. We've kept the investment very accessible for this program. It's just 3 payments of $109 or 1 payment of $297. You can save about 10% when you pay in full there. And I encourage you to go to the page and just check out also some of the testimonials of people who've worked with her. Louise Hay, who's a legend in the personal development field, has a powerful endorsement of Jean's work. And she said, the wisdom Jean presents has been valuable in my own life over the years. I highly recommend it as a way to love and accept yourself, as well as the way your life is unfolding. So the face reading is really a powerful window into self-love, into appreciating the diversity of others, and being able to navigate your whole life with a lot more clarity on who you're dealing with and how to navigate with them in a way that's ultimately helpful. So, Jean, what a great blessing this program is. Love for you to just share any other remaining thoughts about, why people might join you for the 7 weeks.
Well, to me, this is really a map of who you came here to be, what you came here to learn, why you're having the experience that you have, and a map also to navigate your current situation, to solve your problems, to make life better. So I can't imagine anyone who wouldn't want to discover their own personal map to their life story and to learn to follow that map to create a more positive future for themselves.
Great. Well, that's it. That's what we're all about, is like more self-knowledge equals more capacity to serve, where the more authentic we are. And I think that you really made a great point earlier about how we often take on a bunch of imagery of what we're supposed to be like rather than being true to ourselves. And so try to be a firefighter rather than find a firefighter partner or whatever it is. That it's like the more we can get back to our essence, align with our deeper template, our blueprint for who we truly are, the more we can show up and really give the gifts that we're here to give. And so I think you're doing a great service and creating a really fun program too for self-discovery with this Art of Face Reading. So again, all of you watching, you can see more details at theartoffacereading.com. And I will remind you again, it is on video, which gives a special intimacy, and we are going to start in just a few weeks on March 22nd. So, Jean, fascinating hour. I feel like I learned a lot. It's a brand new area for me, so I'm opening up all sorts of new possibilities, and I'm sure everybody watching is as well. So thank you for diving deep into this ancient art and for translating it in such a way that makes it relevant and powerful for our modern lives.
Well, thank you, Stephen. I'm very excited to move forward with you guys. Thank you.
Great. So thank you all. And again, you just go to theartoffacereading.com. You can get all the details about Jean's upcoming program, the 7-week program. And when you sign up tonight, which I encourage you to do, you get Meet Your 5 Element Guides as your special bonus, in addition to all the rest of the bonuses in the 7-week program. So see you in the course and have a beautiful rest of your day. Bye now. Thanks, Jean.